What's good, y'all? This video is a remake of an older video from last year called Canadian Pacific 2816, the Final Spike Steam Tour, released on June 11th, 2024. I wanted to remake this video to honor the 1-year anniversary of the Final Spike Steam Tour for the Canadian Pacific 2816. Anywho, let's get started. Canadian Pacific 2816, otherwise known as the Empress, is a preserved H-1B class Hudson-type steam locomotive built by Montreal Locomotive Works in December 1930. It is also the only non-streamlined H-1 Hudson to be preserved. 2816 was operated by Canadian Pacific Railway for passenger and commuter rail service from 1930 until its retirement in May 1960. In the 1960s until the winter of 1983 through 1984, it was placed on static display on the Steamtown, USA former site in Bellow Falls, Vermont, and was moved alongside the rest of the Steamtown collection to the new Steamtown Historic Site in Scranton, Pennsylvania, which opened in October 1986, and remained there until September 1998. Then, from 2001, the 2816 operated an excursion service under Canadian Pacific Railway until 2012. In 2023, after the merger of the Canadian Pacific Railway and Kansas City Southern Railway, which became Canadian Pacific Kansas City Limited, or CPKC, 2016 was fired up again. As stated before, the Canadian Pacific Railway and Kansas City Southern Railway had merged to form the Canadian Pacific Kansas City Limited on April 14, 2023, the first ever railroad to connect Canada, United States, and Mexico on direct trackage rights, following announcement of the merger in 2021. After several test runs between July and October 2023, CPKC officially announced the Final Spike Steam Tour for 2816 between Canada and Mexico, making 2816 the first ever steam locomotive to traverse Canada, the United States, and Mexico all in one track, which broke history. The tour began in Calgary, Alberta, Canada on April 24, 2024, which whistle stops were made in several cities of Canada, United States, and Mexico, including Moose Jaw on April 28th, Minot, North Dakota on April 30th, St. Paul, Minnesota on May 3rd, Franklin Park, Illinois on May 8th, Davenport, Iowa on May 10th, Kansas City, Missouri on May 18th, Shreveport, Louisiana on May 24th, Laredo, Texas on May 28th, Monterrey, Nuevo Leon on May 31st, and finally Mexico City on June 7th. 2816 would often be accompanied by Canadian Pacific EMD FP9 numbers 1401 and 4107. Other powers that would accompany the locomotive on this tour were one of CPKC's hydrogen conversions, that being CPKC ex-Canadian Pacific UMD H20EL, which was formerly an SD40-2F, number 1001, formerly numbered 9024, and CPKC ex-Canadian Pacific EMD SD70 ACU, which was formerly an SD 9443 MAX, number 9013, formerly 9126, in the Tuscan red paint scheme for Canadian Pacific Railway. One particular locomotive that was featured alongside 2816 was that on May 10, 2024 at the Kansas City Union Station in Kansas City, Missouri. There was an unveiling of the new CPKC paint scheme that 2816 attended while on tour. As such, the first unit to receive this livery was CPKC GE EX44AC number 9375 at the aforementioned unveiling. When the 2816 reached Mexico on May 30th, 2024, it was the first steam locomotive to operate in Mexico for the first time in 34 years, since 1990. On June 4th, 2024, there was a 29-year-old woman who was taking a selfie with 2816 at an unsafe distance between her and 2816. As she was doing so, she was fatally struck by 2816 while passing through Napola de Villagran, Hidalgo, Mexico. However, many people and filmers were blaming CPKC and the women. 2016 then arrived in Mexico City on June 7, 2024. On June 9th, 2816 began its return trip home, arriving on June 11th in Laredo, Texas. 2 whistle stops were at Silvis, Illinois on June 29th and Winnipeg, Canada on July 6th. At Silvis, Illinois on said date, Union Pacific EMD DDA 40X Centennial number 6936 was displayed along 2816 at the Railroading History of Midwestern America. Union Pacific 6936 was part of Union Pacific's Heritage Fleet until 2022, when it was donated to the Railroading History of Midwestern America. Finally, the locomotive will return to its home in Calgary, Alberta, Canada on July 10, 2024, concluding its trip. Well guys, that journey for 2816 was a wild trip that broke history in North American railroading. Even with the incident with 2816 and the woman, the journey was still truly memorable. I honestly thought it was pretty cool to see a quote-unquote new hydrogen locomotive with a classic steam locomotive. Anyways, that's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed that remake, and I'll see you all on the next video on the main line. Adios.